Welcome into Tuesday's Sportsmemo NHL betting podcast with our NHL expert, Andrew McInnis. McInnis, welcome to the pod. How are you?
Doing great. It's great to be here, Drew. And man, it feels like it was just yesterday we were talking hockey and going over a Tuesday slate. So time flies, and the season's in full swing now. And a lot of great reads here tonight. A lot of great games to go over here. So I'm looking forward to breaking down this Tuesday card. I hope you're doing well as well.
Yeah, man, doing good. Good Tuesday here, and we've had a pretty good run here with the podcast Best Bets in the NHL. I'm learning how to bet NHL just listening to you and betting these best bets. 3-1. We'll have one here at the end of the podcast as well. Last Tuesday you cashed with Maple Leafs in regulation plus 120. I bet it live. Thanks for that, McInnis. How did that game end up finishing? I didn't watch it, but I know we did get the plus 120, and it was extra value. Do you mind explaining that real quick to the listeners that might not be as, in tune with the NHL betting markets?
Yeah, it was a great game. Like I mentioned, it was kind of a road spot for the Vegas Golden Knights heading to Toronto, and the Leafs were kind of struggling to score, so it was a good spot for them to kind of make a good name for themselves against the Vegas Golden Knights. And regarding that regulation line, it's one of those things where it's a win in the 60 minutes, so it does not include overtime or the shootout, and it really does add a lot of value. I mean, you can go from, I believe, minus 135, minus 120, and all of a sudden you're getting plus money value if you take that bet for them to win within the 60 minutes, not including overtime. So I look to do that quite a bit on these all-star teams like the Maple Leafs, like the Penguins, and like the Capitals, teams like that. And it really worked out that time. It was a great spot, 3-1, and looking forward to cashing one more here. And we'll have that at the end of this podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Excited for that. And McInnis has 2 client plays up at sportsmemo.com. It's a 2-pack for $25, and we do have a special here for this podcast. It's a coupon code NHL10. If you type that in with no spaces, just NHL10, you can get that package for just $10. So that's $5 a play. It's a NHL 2-pack on the front page of sportsmemo.com, and the coupon code is NHL10. McInnis is hitting 59% in the NHL year to date. We got a couple games to go over. Best bet at the end. Let's start off game numbers 3 and 4 on Tuesday night's NHL betting card, Tuesday, November 13th. We got Pitt and New Jersey. Game number 3-4 here. Pitt traveling to New Jersey. The road team, the Penguins, laying pretty much minus 120 across the board with a total of 6, McInnis.
Yeah, this one's really interesting here, Drew, because you've got two teams here that, in my opinion, are both struggling, but they're two teams that by the end of the season are going to be at opposite ends of the standings. And so this is a great spot here. It's a revenge spot for Pittsburgh because, as we know, November 5th, just a couple days ago, Pittsburgh was actually dominated by the New Jersey Devils. They were, plus 150 underdogs, and the Devils got the job done. So I think this is a great underdog spot here for the Penguins. But, let's take a little comparison here between these two teams and just take a look at some of these lineups before we give out a play and, just talk about the depth that we have. Because you look at last year, we saw Taylor Hall win the Hart Trophy. He was a guy that absolutely crushed it. He killed it. He led this team, Drew, by a huge landslide. And then next to him was Nico Hischier as far as goals and points goes for the New Jersey Devils. But there was nobody really near those two guys. They're just those two guys that carry the team. We have Kyle Palmieri as well and Travis Zajac. But other than that, there's not too many weapons on this team. But when you look at this Pittsburgh Penguins team, I'll talk about it time and time again, the depth is what makes them so great. And anyone can say, of course, they've got guys like Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin. But what makes great players great is that they decide to, accept the fact that they have other all-stars around them. And they're so perfect at sharing that spotlight and working together, building that chemistry. And you've got guys like Crosby, Malkin, Hornquist, Gensel, Kessel, all sharing that spotlight, all on the same team. Even a guy like Carl Hagelin can get the job done and light the lamp for this team. So to me, coming into this matchup, I believe because one of the longest losing stretches we've seen from Pittsburgh in a long time, before that victory they got November 10th versus Arizona, they were on a 5-game losing streak, and that was flat out embarrassing. They were having trouble scoring goals. They did not look good. During that span, they put up, a zero. They put up a donut against the Toronto Maple Leafs. They lost 5-0 to them, and of course, like I mentioned, they lost 5-1 to the Devils. So this is a perfect spot here for Pittsburgh to bounce back. They're 4-1 in their last 5 games straight up on the road against New Jersey. And we're being offered a tremendous price here. We're getting great value here. Pittsburgh only around minus 115, 120 against this New Jersey team. And I believe that number will drop even more because Casey DeSmith has been announced to be the starter between the pipes for the Pittsburgh Penguins as the goaltender tonight. And I think that this will be a great, perfect revenge spot, division spot for the Pittsburgh Penguins to come out, put on a great performance as the favorite. And believe me, when you're the Pittsburgh Penguins and you're a team that, goes through that 5-game losing streak and does not really look like they're looking to be that team that's going to be elite moving forwards, they're a team, Drew, and I'll talk about this as the year goes on with you. They're a team that, I hate to say it, but they put their foot on the gas pedal when they want to, and they take it off when they want to. And it's one of those teams that they're almost like the Golden State Warriors of the NHL. They're just so dominant that they always find a way to make a difference in the playoffs and make a huge impact down the stretch. But sometimes they can just go through a little lull, and that's what happened there for the Penguins. So coming into this one, I think this one's going to be a purely dominant game for the Penguins. I love it. Minus 115, Pittsburgh Penguins on the money line.
All right, liking the Pittsburgh side there. McInnis, I have a question for you. So if you're talking about a football game that's kicking off at 7 o'clock Eastern time, you'd be like, okay, kickoff's at 7 o'clock. How do you say that for the NHL?
Puck drops. The puck drops at this time. That's usually what you say, the puck drops, yeah.
Okay, but you wouldn't say the face-off at 7 Eastern.
You could say these two teams are facing off, but typically you say, puck drops at 7 Eastern time, and then you say the arena. It's, kickoff and puck drop. That's kind of the two comparison, I'd say.
Is there like a slang out there, like a real NHL fan would say, some slang thing that sounds real cool, or no?
That's pretty much what they use. Just the puck drops, I guess. Maybe different per team, but that's pretty much all I can really give you, Drew. I wish I could tell you something more fancy, but that's the puck drops. That's all I can really give you.
All right,
it's kind of like in basketball, tip off kind of thing.
Okay, all right, that works. So we got a 7 o'clock Eastern puck drop here between Vancouver and the New York Islanders. Looks like 6 the total. Heavy favorite here, the New York Islanders at home, seeing pretty much minus 170, minus 175 across the board.
Yeah, for me, Drew, this is one that I'm going to stay far away from the side here, and I'll just make the easy choice here and look at the over. Vancouver's offense has been on fire. They're a team at the top of their division, shocking a lot of people, and still, nothing's faded away with them. They've shown consistency. They've had roughly around 29 shots per game, and a lot of those are quality shots. And it's not just Elias Pettersson, it's not just Bo Horvat, it's the whole supporting cast getting the job done. And that's always been my biggest issue with the Canucks, is can they have that supporting cast step up and make a difference on a nightly basis? And that's currently what we're seeing from this team. So I actually love that. I love what we're seeing from them. They're making a huge difference, and they're putting out goals, plain and simple. And so is this New York Islanders team. They got a coach in Barry Trotz that is trying to make a difference defensively and trying to slow things down. But to me, these two teams are going to clash, and it's going to be an absolute messy game, Drew. This Islanders team can flat out score. Their past 3 games, they've had a little bit rough of a go, but the talent that they have down their roster, the total has gone over in 4 of Vancouver's last 6 games on the road against the Islanders. Total's gone over in 4 of Vancouver's last 5 games in general against the Islanders. And these two teams, they scream the over. The last 3 games head-to-head, New York Islanders have averaged 4 goals against this Canucks team. I think the goaltending is a little bit weak on both sides of the game. And to be honest with you, the starting goaltenders are almost the biggest worry for me in this one. I don't trust either of them, Drew. It's flat out, plain and simple. I don't trust either of them. I still don't think Markstrom is a strong contending goaltender. I think they'll have to figure that out in Vancouver. And Thomas Greiss has been confirmed for the Islanders, and he's a guy who last year was standing on his head, and all of a sudden this year he's having trouble finding any kind of consistency whatsoever. So the total was posted at 6, and to be honest with you, I was surprised it wouldn't be just more heavily juiced. So we'll happily take the over 6 in this one. This one could get up to 7, 8, 9 goals in this game. So that's going to be kind of my circled game here on this podcast to go over the total.
All right, so you're liking a lot of goals in New York. Next game up, we got, Tampa Bay, Buffalo. And off the top of my head, McInnis, I wanted to ask you a question. Tampa Bay, 12-4, 25 points on the year. That's in the standings I'm talking about. I'm seeing only Nashville ahead of them, and they're in the Western Conference, 13-3. And one thing with Nashville that I'm looking at in their record, they're 8-0 away from home. Is that a trend? Obviously, they're not going to. Well, maybe they could. I don't know. Stay undefeated away from home, but a trend you kind of use in your handicapping as far as NHL teams winning on the road, and I'm talking about this Nashville team. Would you look for them to keep that going?
Yeah, Nashville actually just dropped their first game on the road last night against Anaheim, and that was a great. I'm happy you brought that up, Drew. I'm not trying to correct you by any means, but I'm happy you brought that up because they were rolling, and being successful on the road in the NHL is just as important as any other sport, if not more important. I find teams struggle. I find teams at the start of their road trip specifically can get off to a tough start, and they have to finish road trips strong, especially those long road trips that can be grueling. You can miss home, you can miss your day-to-day routine. And yeah, I think those two teams are at the top of the league right now. They're both teams that can consistently score, but their goaltending has been exceptional as well. You got to love when you've got the best part about those two teams, when I think about the top of my head, Drew, is they've got guys like Louis Domingue as a backup goaltender right now, with the goals against the average that he has, right behind Vasilevsky is just outstanding. Then, of course, for Nashville, we've got Pekka Rinne and UC Saros. Those are both two goalies that can be starting goaltenders in my eyes on a lot of teams in the NHL. So, first of all, that depth at the goaltender position really does help reflect their record, and it also does help reflect their road success as well. So, give a lot of credit to their goaltending, and of course, yeah, their success on the road is huge. And those are two teams that we will 100% be talking about later on in April, May, and June this coming playoffs.
Okay. No, thanks for pointing that out, McInnis. I am seeing an asterisk next to this. I got the newspaper doing it kind of the old school fashion way with hockey in the podcast. So it's funny. They won 8 in a row, caught my eye, but they dropped it last night. So thanks for bringing that up. We got game number 9-10, Tampa Bay, Buffalo here, McInnis, minus 130, minus 135, the Lightning laying on the road, and 6 the total in Buffalo.
Well, you know what? Last week, Drew, I brought it up with you, that whole weird situation with the Ottawa Senators about the whole Uber incident and what's going to happen with that team. And I'll tell you, the way they've responded has been it's been pretty much outstanding. There's no words that I really have for the Ottawa Senators, the way that they performed. And the reason why I'm talking about them is because of their outstanding victory against the Tampa Bay Lightning Saturday night. It's ridiculous. I mean, this is a team that nobody had faith in to be able to have goal production, but nobody had faith in them also to have great defense. And, pretty much both those two things have come to life. I mean, this Ottawa Senators team took Tampa Bay to school. I mean, Tampa Bay up 4-2 Saturday night. They're looking good, looking to cover a lot of puck lines for everybody. They're dominant, keeping Ottawa out of their own end. And all of a sudden, Ottawa comes back, scores several goals in the third period to come out and win 6-4. And that is not acceptable for this Tampa Bay team. They're 5-1 straight up in their last 6 games on the road. And I really do think that based off what we saw in Ottawa in their past couple games here, we're getting a decent price. And ever since Louis Domingue has been announced as the goaltender, the starting goaltender, which was announced right before this podcast started for Tampa Bay, the price is dropping like crazy on this Tampa Bay team. They're just minus 130 now. They're minus 145, 150, 155 before. This is a game that I want everyone listening to this podcast to get on. This should be an absolute dominant performance. This Tampa Bay team is one of, if not the best teams off a loss in the entire National Hockey League, especially after getting embarrassed with that comeback the Ottawa Senators took to them. And, a really, really important stat that I like to always bring up when it's there. The Lightning are 5-0 in their last 5 games after allowing 5 goals or more in their previous contest. So pretty much this team, first of all, they know how to respond, but they also know how to respond after a very terrible defensive performance. So this team isn't just great scoring-wise and scoring depth. They also like to take care of things defensively and try and shut the opposition down as well. And because we're getting a backup goalie in Louis Domingue tonight and getting Vasilevsky taking a little bit of a break, we're going to get that much better of a price. And I'm still confident with Domingue going out there between the pipes to get the job done for me. So maybe even wait for this price to drop even more. But at the minus 130 number, I'm completely confident with it. This Buffalo team, don't get me wrong, Drew, they can score. I mean, they got a victory against Vancouver on the 10th. They worked things out. They had a great game against Montreal on the 8th, but they're a team that's not going to be consistent. Their defensive woes are going to continue. They're involved in far too many high-scoring games, and they can't take care of the puck in their own end. They're only beating lower-tier teams in my eyes, and Tampa Bay is going to come into this one with, an absolute, I think, dominant performance. So go ahead, take Tampa Bay on the money line, minus 130. This one should be an absolute dominant performance from Tampa Bay. Don't be fooled by the backup goaltender being in nets because, like I mentioned, their depth at the goaltending position is what makes them such a great team.
And McInnis, you bring up 5-0 after giving up 5 goals. Is that the correct stat?
Yes.
That, and my background, or what I really concentrate in, is college basketball and college football. So trying to kind of dig into that, I love the stat as well, like you said. But I would think that that's a lot to do with coaching. It could also be, the leaders on the team and kind of being, I guess, guys with the right mindset on the roster. Where would you attribute that to the coaching or just overall talent level?
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I think it's definitely both. I mean, I think it's a mental state. It's a mindset. It's the ability to forget about the last game, but also remember the bad things and take those from that game and move forwards and realize what mistakes you made. And so when I see a stat like this, it sounds like a pretty confusing stat, but it's plain and simple. 5-0 in their last 5, it must mean something, and they must know how to respond. And for a team that, allowed 6 goals versus the Ottawa Senators, that's not acceptable. For a team that is supposed to be at the top of this Eastern Conference, for them to allow several goals in the third period and lose their lead, that's not acceptable. It's embarrassing in my eyes, and they're a team that knows how to respond. So I'm not saying they can always respond, and the bounce back spot is perfect here for them. But they're 5-1 in their last 6 road games. They know how to get the job done after a complete performance like they did against Ottawa. And tonight is a perfect spot here against Hutton and the Buffalo Sabres.
All right, McInnis, we got one game left, and we'll get to the best bet. Game number 15-16, a late-nighter here on the West Coast. We got Toronto traveling to play Los Angeles cross-country, and having to go over the border here. I don't know if that matters at all, but minus 126 Toronto, laying on the road 5.5 with a little juice towards the over.
Drew, anyone that knows me knows that I have been hating on this LA Kings team throughout the entire year, throughout pretty much the past year and a half. I just think with the way that the NHL has advanced, the way the NHL has moved forwards, they're not able to keep up with the speed and the fast pace that this day and age NHL really provides. And it's sad to watch. They're a very slow team in my eyes, and we've got a Maple Leafs team that has not been performing to their potential. We've got Austin Matthews out with an injury. We've got William Nylander still holding out through. And this is something that's unheard of in the NHL. You hear about it in football, maybe in basketball a little bit, but you don't hear about this stuff in hockey. William Nylander is still over in Sweden as he's in the contract negotiations, so he has not played a single game for the Maple Leafs so far this year. But that does not matter. The goal production, the line depth, this team has 3 lines that really can score. It's about darn time we start seeing the consistency from this team. The fact that we can get a regulation price at such a good number here for this Maple Leafs team, it makes me think twice about it. I mean, the fact is plus 115, first game on the road, I understand, but it's too good to be true. I love it. This Kings team won't be able to keep up with the Maple Leafs whatsoever. They're too slow, and their goaltending situation is awful. They give up far too many bad rebounds, and the defense aren't ever even in the area to clear the puck out of the way. This Maple Leafs team is 11-6, and they should not be 11-6. And I think the LA Kings are 5-10-1, and they shouldn't even have those 5 wins in my eyes. So, Toronto averaging 3.4 goals per game. LA barely even averaging 2 goals per game. It's been an embarrassing effort for them so far this year. And I look to see them come into LA and just completely, just an onslaught. They're coming off a loss against the Boston Bruins, a pretty big rival to them, where they lost 5-1. And I'm not saying, you get embarrassed by a team, you always come back strong. But after that performance versus Boston, I can guarantee you they've been out in LA, they've been getting ready, they've had numerous practices in LA, so the time change shouldn't throw them off whatsoever. They should be prepared. And when you score 1 goal and you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, you will come back with a great performance. And I think that, with that regulation price, like I mentioned, when this podcast first started, plus 115 for the Maple Leafs to win it within the 60 minutes is a great look tonight here in the NHL.
And guys, remember the coupon code NHL10 when checking out at sportsmemo.com with McInnis's 2-pack up there at the front page. It's normally $25. With the coupon code NHL10, you can get both plays for just $10. That's $5 a play on the front page of sportsmemo.com. McInnis, it's time. Best bet time for the NHL. 3-1 year to date on the podcast. I got my Bet Online account up. Tell me where to click, man. Where are we going?
This is a little more juice than we've laid so far here on the season, Drew, but minus 130 with the Tampa Bay Lightning, minus 135, 140. I'll be fine with going to that number. You got to love it. Tampa Bay Lightning, Louis Domingue between the pipes will get the job done for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like I mentioned, 5-0 in the last 5 after giving up at least 5 goals. This is a team that knows how to respond after getting embarrassed like they did against Ottawa. Buffalo won't know what hit them when this Tampa Bay Lightning team comes to town. Far too much talent. Look to see Nikita Kucherov light the scoreboard up and get the job done here for Buffalo. I can't see Buffalo doing much against this Tampa Bay team because of also how strong their defense is. And from that performance we saw against Ottawa, they're going to want some revenge here. And Buffalo, it will take that revenge. So go for Tampa Bay, minus 130, minus 135 here at some spots for the best bet. We're 3-1 in the season. Look to continue, make it a 4-1 spot here.
All right, McInnis, so we got regular NHL, not NHL three-way, right?
Regular NHL.
Okay, game number 9, Tampa Bay, minus 130. Locked and loaded, baby. Let's go, McInnis.
Let's do it.
All right, buddy, so go Lightning tonight. Guys, remember the coupon code NHL10 at checkout for his 2-pack on the front page of sportsmemo.com. You can get both plays for just $10, $5 each. And McInnis, anything else you want to throw out before we shut this down?
Yeah, just last second here. I mean, it's the CFL Playoffs Division Finals this Sunday coming up here, and I'm going to have a 5% play going on Sports Memo. And up until Friday, you can get that play for just $15 at Sports Memo. Look it up because after Friday, it'll go back to its regular price of $30. And remember, anyone that buys a 5% play gets 150% credit back into your account if that play doesn't cash. But this is a total that I absolutely love in the CFL, and I cannot wait for this coming Sunday.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets, and we'll talk tomorrow with Robbie Vino starting the college football Every Game on the Board podcast.